In this video, I am going to be talking about the following C++ topics: data privacy with keywords private and public, privacy in struct and class, and accessing private data. I already have a code. Before going to the topic of interest, let me explain this code first. I have a struct called country with attribute name and area. I have a setter function to receive name and area and set it into the attributes. I have get name function and get area function, two getter functions to return the name and area, and I have a display query function to display the name and area. These are definition of setter function, getter function, and get area function. And the definition of display function is actually included inside the struct itself. In the main function, this is the object creation, setting data by calling the set function, and displaying data by calling the getter functions. First, let me talk about privacy. Privacy means whether the content of structure are private or public, are private or not private. In this case, we are talking about private and public. If this everything, the things that are inside this structure definition, if they are accessible from outside the structure, for example from the main function, this is not within the scope of the structure. So any place outside the structure is outside the scope of the structure. If anything inside the structure definition is accessible from outside, that is called public, or that is said to have public access. In this case, name, area, set function, get name function, get area function, display function. Out of this, I already have used this three function from the main function outside. So set is being used, get name is being used, get area being used. That means I am able to use call this function. That means these are the public functions. This is a public access function. This get name is also a public access function. So get area is also public access function. Similarly, the display function is also public access function. Not only that, I can also access the attributes directly from outside the scope, m name and m area. Let me show that. This is not complaining, that means this is legal. I can also show you by compiling that this is OK code in this case. So you can see the output. This first line was displayed out of the execution of this line 51, which directly accesses the attributes. Now this name and area is also public. They have public access. Now what that means is everything inside this structure has public access, and one of the feature that is or one of the characteristics of encapsulation is that to minimize the public access. If you maximize public access, in this case everything is public, so you are maximizing public access. But if you one of the principle of encapsulation is to minimize. To the class members, right? That means usually the rule of thumb is that these attributes should not be allowed direct public access. They should be made private, and member functions can be allowed public access, because these are the means of communicating, means for the outside code to communicate with the data. But outside code should not be allowed to directly communicate with the data. Therefore, this kind of access should not be allowed. For that, you need to make the things private. Everything, if the things that are accessible from outside code, they are public. If you have something private, the private things are not accessible from outside code. So to make that happen, we can make use of make some things private. When I say some things, I mean some members. If we don't want access to these attributes as private, then we don't allow access to these attributes from outside code, then we can make it private by using the label called private. Private is a keyword, and if I have private followed by colon, that makes it a private label. What it says is everything, all the declarations that follows this label are private. In this case, this name is private, area is private, and set also becomes private, get name becomes private, get area becomes private, and display becomes private. So in this case, in this particular case, attempt to use all this function and attribute is going to be illegal from our side. In this case, attempt to access set function is illegal, attempt to access get name function is illegal, attempt to access get area function is illegal, and display is illegal. Right? We only want to make attempt to access name and area illegal, and we want to make this access legal. So we can do that by using another keyword called public and followed by colon, making it public label, and everything that follows after that label is public. It makes everything public, right? So everything follows that comes after private label, unless it comes across the public label, then everything becomes private, and everything after public becomes a public label becomes public. And in case if there is another private label, then everything that follows this private label is going to be private again. Now in this case, display is private, mname is private, marea is private, right? So attempt to use direct attempt to direct access mname and area is illegal, and attempt to direct access to display function is illegal. So I didn't want to make it private, this should be public. So now the role of keyword private and public is to restrict access from outside code to the attributes and functions. Sometimes some functions can also be made private, and if required, some data may also be made public, but the principle is make the data private as much as possible, and make the function public if it is required. So this is about data privacy, private and public. Right, so this we want to make this illegal. Now right, so now if we make the data private, then any attempt to access data directly will become illegal. So you cannot, compiler will actually complain, will not allow that code. Either you will have to make changes to remove all the code, part of the code that tries to make changes to the private data, or you have to, if that is required, access is required, then you have to make those data items or members public. Now I'm going to be talking quickly privacy in struct and classes. In struct, everything is private by public by default. Therefore, if I put something like this, and everything is public, and if I want to minimize the use of the labels, then it's possible that I can put this at the bottom and label it as private. This will make everything public and accept these data attributes, right? So by default, the content of structure is public. If you don't put any label, then that makes things public, but if you want to make private, then you need to have that private label in the case of a structure, right? So you can see the code, there is no complaint. Now in the case of class, if I change this keyword to class, then the things are private by default. These are private, and again this is private. So when I design a class, I recommend to put private things on the top and have a label for public things. This is the style I recommend you to follow. If you are creating class, you put private stuff on the top so that you don't have to put a label, and the public public things after you put this public label. But if you are creating a struct, then my recommendation is put this data item on the bottom so that you can have only one label. So that is the main difference between struct and class in C++. The things contents are public by default in structure, and they are private by default in class. Now let me move ahead and talk about accessing private data. Private data should not be allowed access directly. It should be allowed access. The access should be allowed only through the functions. In this case, if I want to access data to write into it, I would create a function like this for setting data into it. If I want to access data for reading, for returning the content, then I would create a getter function like this. If I want to access data for display, for the purpose of displaying, then I want to uh, access data through the use of this function, right? So we have this set function, get name function, area function, display function. That means this code that is placed in main function is able to communicate with the data, because I am able to write data into it, write data, I am able to get data and display it. That means I am able to communicate with the data of this object, even if that is not directly accessible to me. Therefore, these functions that are designed to be used to communicate with the data are called communication links, right? These serve as the communication links between this class and the outside code that actually uses that class for its own purpose. Now with this I am going to stop this discussion.